I never thought a road could eat a man alive, but that's what happened to me on Highway 191, somewhere between the nothingness of Utah and the slow heartbeat of Arizona. This isn't one of those campfire tales you swap over beer cans and cheap echoes. This is my memory, scorched raw, a wound I can't close. I have to tell it like this, in the same voice ricocheting through my skull, before the road calls me back. Friends, you enjoy listening to stories, but you don't subscribe to the channel or like the videos. I request you to please subscribe to the channel right now so that I get more motivation to bring you even more stories. If you help me reach 1,000 subscribers, I promise to bring you extremely scary stories with a truly real feel, 2 horror stories every single day. So go ahead, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and now let's move on to today's story. My name is Daniel Hunter, 32 years old when this started. Back then, my life was already unraveling. Dead-end job at a call center, debt climbing higher than the heat off an Arizona highway, and the hollow space left by a breakup I was too stubborn to admit shattered me. So I decided to drive. People say road trips in America are a cure, a way to find yourself against the vastness of the land. Maybe they're right, or maybe the land finds you. I took off in June, thinking the light and distance would burn away the mess inside. I wanted to erase myself mile by mile. I started from Denver, tank full, packed a cooler with gas station sandwiches, and filled a playlist with old rock songs my father used to hum. No destination in mind, just the long sprawl of the American West, the way the mountains gave way to deserts and the way the sky always seemed bigger out there. The plan, if you could call it that, was to drift. But by the 3rd night, after driving through Moab and the orange teeth of Arches National Park, I stopped at a dive bar called Black Coyote. Wooden siding, neon beer signs half burned out, and locals who looked like they'd never been anywhere else. Something about the place pressed heavy on me, like being studied. I sat at the bar and struck up conversation with a man who called himself Grady. Weathered face, leathery skin, trucker cap tipped low. He asked where I was headed. I laughed and said, "Nowhere in particular." He sipped his whiskey and narrowed his eyes. "Stay off the hollow stretch. Road 191 looks like it'll take you south easy, but don't drive it past midnight, not if you want to come back." I chuckled it off. Superstition. Every town in the desert has a ghost story. 2 nights later, I ignored Grady. My map had me running straight down 191 to make Flagstaff by morning. The gas tank was pushing half, but I figured I'd fuel up in a tiny town called Monticello before the stations closed. But when I pulled into Monticello near 11:30, every single storefront was shut. Not just closed, dark, lifeless, as though the town had been abandoned years ago. I don't remember any closed for the night signs. No one at all on Main Street. Just boarded windows and a flickering yellow traffic light stuck on repeat. I should have turned back, should have found a motel in Moab and swallowed the cost. But I told myself it was just small town life, that everything shuts down after dusk. So I pressed on. At a little past midnight, my car eased into a stretch of highway where the desert pressed in close. No radio stations came through, just static. The headlights cut tunnels into blackness, white beams swallowed before they reached anything solid. That's when I saw the sign that wasn't on my map. Paint peeled, leaning at an angle, it just read, Hollow Road 12. At first glance, Hollow Road was nothing but a side turn, a strip of asphalt so narrow it looked forgotten. No lights, no reflectors, just a split in the desert swallowing itself into black. I told myself not to be stupid, that I had no business nosing around back roads in the middle of the night, but the wheel jerked hard, like something else decided. I swear on everything, the steering shifted under my grip, pulling me toward the side road until my tires crunched over. Jesus Christ, I muttered, pulling back, but I was already committed. There was no shoulder to swing around on, no quick U-turn. It funneled me in, sand and rock hugging the tires. And then, everything went quiet. Not just the radio, the engine too. The car had died, but the headlights stayed on. The desert around me wasn't empty anymore. Shapes stood in the sand just outside the flood of my headlights, human-shaped. Still, they didn't shuffle forward or back. They just existed there on the fringe, like the dark had been waiting to drape itself into skin. Maybe 6 of them? 7? I lost count because whenever I blinked, one more figure appeared. My pulse hammered. No. I scrambled for my phone. No bars. In that desert silence, sound carried sharp. That's why I heard it too easily. The sound of gravel crunching under bare feet. Everyone in those stories always says, I ran. But I couldn't. My hand was locked around the wheel and my legs had turned into stone. All I could do was stare. One of the figures leaned forward just enough into the light that I could see its face. No eyes. Just hollow, empty sockets dripping down like wax. I don't remember falling asleep. But I must have, because when I blinked again, the sun was cutting over the horizon. My car roared to life when I twisted the key. No hesitation. Fuel gauge half full, just like before. And the highway behind me was empty. Only problem, my watch read 7:35 a.m. I know for a fact it had been 12:15 when I saw that sign. That leaves 7 hours unaccounted for. 7 hours my brain refuses to hand back to me. I finally made it to Flagstaff by mid-morning and stumbled into the first cheap motel off Route 66. I slammed the door, double-locked it, and collapsed into the chair. My hands couldn't stop shaking. I dragged out the cheap spiral notepad from my backpack and started writing everything down. I knew if I didn't spill it onto paper, my memory would twist, and maybe I'd tell myself it was just fatigue and desert tricks. But I knew what I saw. I wrote, they were waiting. They had no eyes. Hollow Road. When I woke from an uneasy doze, someone had slid a piece of paper under the motel door. It read, "You weren't supposed to stop." I froze. For what felt like a whole hour staring at that slip of paper on the cheap carpet. The words bled through in smudged black ink, like they'd been written in a moving car or with trembling hands. You weren't supposed to stop. That sentence kept repeating in my head. Who knew I stopped? Who followed me here? I rushed out into the hallway, hoping to catch whoever left it, but the walkway was empty, except for the buzz of a soda machine and the faint reek of cigarettes. No footsteps, no slamming doors. Back in the room, I turned the note over. On the back, there was a rough hand-drawn shape. Looked like an outline of a road curling into a spiral. At the center of the spiral was a single black dot. Every instinct screamed at me to pack up, fuel up, and get the hell out of Arizona. But I couldn't shake the pull. Like the road was still under my nails, running through my pulse, whispering at the back of my thoughts. By 5 p.m., I'd convinced myself to go back. A normal man doesn't do that, I know. A normal man runs. But this wasn't curiosity anymore. This was compulsion. Like if I ignored the hollow stretch, it would find me anyway. I filled the cooler again, grabbed a new flashlight, and mapped a route back toward 191. I planned to reach Monticello around dusk to check if the town still looked deserted. As soon as I passed the same flickering yellow light on Monticello's dead Main Street, the air felt wrong, thicker. The buildings, though intact, looked even less real than 2 nights ago, like stage fronts, stretched and painted for an audience that never came. I parked by the closed diner and listened. Not a single bird. Not even wind. Half a mile outside town, I spotted a gas station I swore hadn't been there before. The sign said, simply, Henry's. Fuel.
The pump looked ancient, the kind you couldn't prepay for. I went inside. The attendant, a thin man with hollow cheeks and skin like scorched leather, lifted his eyes just barely over a newspaper. "Heading south?" he asked, without me saying a word. "Yeah, toward Arizona?" He set the paper down. His hands trembled in slow motion, knuckles sharp as bone. "Don't drive hollow after dark. It doesn't let go easy." The same warning, but this time I swallowed hard and asked straight, "What happens if it does?" His eyes slid away. "They ride with you." By midnight, I was back on 191. The desert was more silent than before, the kind of silence that makes your ears invent static. I passed the crooked sign again, the one pointing Hollow Road, 12. My steering wheel twitched in my hands. I gripped it harder this time, refusing to let it pull me. My knuckles ached white. Not this time, I told myself. And yet, the car swerved on its own, wheels skidding into gravel, funneling me down the same black stretch. The radio snapped on by itself. No song, just a voice. "You came back?" My throat closed up. The headlights cut into nothing, and the figures were waiting again. This time, one of them stepped forward. She was taller than the rest. Long black dress, shredded by desert wind, hair trailing like smoke. She leaned into the glow until her face filled the windshield. Same melted sockets for eyes, mouth stitched with thin black thread, and still her head tilted gently, like she was listening. Then my passenger seat creaked. I couldn't do it. I couldn't look, but I didn't need to. I felt the weight. Someone else was in the car now, breathing soft, shallow, in rhythm with mine. I slammed the gas pedal. The car screamed forward, though the road wasn't visible anymore, just blackness swallowing my lights whole. But no matter how fast I pushed, the seat beside me stayed occupied. At one point, I swear, something cold brushed my hand on the gear shift. By the time I saw dawn again, I was parked in the lot of a rest stop outside Kayenta, Arizona. I don't remember driving there. I don't remember exiting Hollow Road. But the smell in the car was wrong. Too sweet and rotted, like flowers left too long in the heat. And in the dust on my dashboard, someone had written with a finger, "Next time, don't leave her behind." The rest stop outside Kayenta was nearly empty, except for one beat-up RV standing crooked near the restroom building. Sun was already steaming up the asphalt as I climbed out of the car, my eyes sore from a night I couldn't piece together. That smell still clung to me, rotting flowers, sweet and foul, like funerals forgotten in the desert. I splashed water on my face inside the bathroom and caught sight of myself in the cracked mirror. My eyes were bloodshot, yes, but what hollowed my gut wasn't exhaustion. It was the smear of black dust around my mouth, like ash. I scrubbed it raw, but it wouldn't come off completely. When I staggered back out, someone was leaning against the RV. A woman in a red plaid shirt, jeans torn at the knees, cigarette dangling between her fingers. She looked over me and said, "Calm as you please, you saw them too, didn't you?" My whole body went stiff. Her name was Tasha. She was maybe late 30s, with storm gray eyes that never seemed to blink long enough. She told me she'd been on the road 3 weeks, and that Hollow Road had picked her back in Utah. Her story matched mine. Car dies, headlights stay, figures with no eyes, missing time. Only her story didn't end at sunrise. Her story kept going. "They don't let all of us go," she said, lighting another cigarette. "Some of us get dragged down the spiral." I asked her what that meant. She didn't answer right away. She only waved at the desert horizon, where the highway lines blurred in heat. "Doesn't matter where you turn, you're still on it. Hollow's not just a road, it's a mouth. Once you're swallowed, the exits aren't exits anymore." We caravanned together for a while. I didn't trust her, but I trusted being alone even less. My Camry trailing behind her RV, asphalt rolling endlessly. That's when I started noticing things wrong with the daylight. Every mile marker we passed was marked 191. Even when we clearly changed highways, even when road signs should have said I-40 near Winslow, they all carried the same number, 191. And at the edge of the sunburnt desert, there they were, the watchers, standing still between cactus poles and dry washes, their eyeless faces tilted toward our convoy. "Don't slow down," Tasha warned through the walkie she handed me.
So I didn't. But each one we passed, I swore another appeared closer, until they were standing no more than 10 feet from the shoulder, staring straight in. That night we tried stopping in Holbrook, right off the old Route 66 strip. Neon motels, dinosaur statues for the tourists, overpriced diners, the kind of place that should have been tacky comfort. Except the motel room key the clerk gave me opened to a room already occupied. Not by luggage, not by another guest, by ash. The entire room was coated in black ash like the aftermath of a fire. Bed, carpet, curtains surrendered to gray powder. And in the middle of the room, carved into the dust, was the same spiral symbol from the first note. At its center, a single handprint. Not mine, too long-fingered. When I staggered back outside, Tasha didn't blink. "Yeah," she said, "they're letting us know we're marked." That night, sometime past 3, I woke to whispers. Not outside, not drifting through the AC, from inside the closet. I sat on the edge of the bed, heart jackhammering. The whispering rose just enough for me to catch phrases. Don't leave her behind. You aren't supposed to stop. Ride with us, ride with us, ride with us. I slammed the closet door shut without looking, but in that final fraction of a second before blackness, I swear I saw something move inside, something pale, unfolding itself like it had been pressed flat against the wall. I don't know if I slept after that, but I fell into something. Dream, vision, memory, doesn't matter. I was behind the wheel again, except the highway wasn't a line anymore. It curled into itself, downward, tighter and tighter, until it formed a spiral funneling into a point of black. My car screamed down the slope, tires smoking. On each curve, those eyeless figures waited, whispering in chorus. And in my passenger seat, hands folded neatly in her lap, was the woman in the black dress, the one stitched mouth. She turned her hollow face toward me and pulled at the strings in her lips. The thread split with a soft pop, and she asked, without any tongue, without any sound, "Are you driving or am I?" I woke choking on desert dust. The morning after the closet whispers, neither of us spoke much. Tasha chain-smoked behind the RV wheel, pale fingers trembling just enough for me to notice. I followed her out of Holbrook, trying not to blink too long at the roadside. Because the watchers didn't leave with the night. Now they stood openly in daylight. At bus stops, inside diners we sped past, on overpasses above the interstate. Ordinary people didn't seem to see them. An old couple ate pancakes under a neon sign, while outside their window, one of those eyeless shapes leaned against the glass like a reflection that wasn't theirs. I asked Tasha through the walkie, "Why us? Why this road?" Her bitter laugh cracked over static. "You think I know? Maybe we were weak enough to notice. Maybe we were already hollow before the hollow found us." Around noon, red and blue lights snapped on behind me. A state trooper car. The first normal authority I'd seen since this nightmare began. Relief burst in my chest. I pulled over, heart hammering. The trooper approached slowly, mirrored sunglasses hiding his eyes. He was tall, stiff, his hand balanced on the holster as if on display. He leaned through the window, his voice a whisper not made for daylight. "You weren't supposed to leave her behind." The cruiser vanished the second I blinked. Lights gone, asphalt bare. Tasha's growl crackled through the walkie. "They're playing with you now. Stay ahead or you won't wake up at all." We tried heading south toward Phoenix, thinking maybe a bigger city, more noise, more life, could shake the road's grip. But every single detour crawled back onto 191. The GPS spun, unable to locate. Street signs blurred names like smeared ink. By evening, we reached a rest stop outside something labeled San Denis, but the map didn't list any such town in Arizona.
The vending machines stood full, but every bag of chips was gray with ash. The soda cans all bore the spiral symbol where their logos should have been. Tasha kicked at one machine until glass cracked. "They're showing us it's their world now. We're just visitors." That night, exhausted, we parked off-road, away from exits and signs. Tasha lit a small campfire out of dry brush, the only light keeping shadows honest. Her voice was quieter, cracking around the truth. "I lost someone before Hollow." I stared at her across the fire. She wasn't looking at me. She was staring into the flame like maybe a face stared back from it. "My daughter, 11 years old.
We were supposed to drive to California. She never made it. Car accident. My fault. God damn my fault. Her fists clenched hard. After that, the road, it found me. Started whispering. I think it feeds on grief, on emptiness. The hairs on my neck rose, because her words were mine too, only shaped different. My failed relationship, my broken life, my need to drive into nothing. Maybe Hollow didn't pick us randomly. Maybe it hunted the hollow-hearted. The fire died low. Just as my lids sagged, I heard it. Footsteps. Not one or two. Hundreds. Moving past our camp in unison across desert gravel. Tasha grabbed my wrist, forced me still. Don't move. Don't breathe too loud. Shapes walked by in thick ranks, scraping their bare feet against dust. Each one carried a lantern dim with gray light. Their mouths were stitched like hers, the black-dressed woman. But the thread pulsed faint red in the dark. An army of the Hollow's lost travelers. And none of them turned their eyeless heads toward us, except one at the very end. It stopped, tilted its head, as if sniffing. I felt my stomach lurch, sick with the thought, it knows me. Tasha's grip bruised my arm. Don't answer it. But when it opened its mouth, the stitches split into a smile wider than bone should allow, and out of that grin came my father's voice. Danny boy, you shouldn't have left me. My father's voice crawling out of that stitched mouth unhinged me more than anything yet. He's been dead 5 years. Heart attack at work, sudden, unfair. And yet here, on a desert roadside, in a nightmare procession, his tone was perfect. Gravelly, warm, disappointed all the same. Danny boy, it said again, the sound rattling from inside the hollow figure's throat like a broken record needle. Danny boy, you shouldn't have left me. I wanted to scream, to run, to do anything but sit frozen, but paralysis clamped me still. Because part of me wanted to believe it, to believe my father was somehow on this road too, wandering. Tasha's nails dug into my wrist like iron claws. It's not him, she hissed. It's never them. It just knows who you're hollow for. The last figure lingered one beat too long, then shuffled on into the midnight dark, lantern bobbing low until swallowed by horizon. When silence finally returned, it wasn't a comfort. It was punishment. I don't even remember crying. Next morning, we drove on, brittle and sleepless, hoping daylight could bleach what we'd seen. Around noon, my tank hit low, so relief burned through me when a gas station appeared on the shoulder. Henry's Fuel. The same slate-gray pumps, the same flickering sign. Didn't we already? My voice cracked over the walkie. Tasha just muttered, "Yeah, didn't think it would be so soon." We pulled in anyway, because what choice did we have? The same attendant sat at the counter, sunken cheeks, trembling hands. Except now, when he raised his face, it was my father's face. Not eyeless, not distorted, accurate, painfully accurate. He smiled. "Fill up, son. You'll need it where you're going." I stumbled outside without a word, hands shaking so hard I almost dropped the pump. Tasha whispered, keeping her head low, "Don't talk to them. Don't feed it by answering." That night, when I opened my glove box to check the road atlas, every page was blackened, not torn, not missing, burnt. Each sheet smoldered under my fingertips, though no fire consumed them. At the center of every page was the spiral symbol scrawled in soot, growing tighter chapter by chapter. For the first time, I admitted the truth aloud. We're not leaving this road, are we? Tasha didn't answer for a long time. Then finally, not both of us. Exhaustion drove us to another roadside motel somewhere outside Sholo. The neon buzzed red against the desert like a wound.
We rented adjoining rooms, double-locked the doors. I tried to drown my head in the shower, burning water scalding away the dust. But when I stepped out, the mirror was fogged except for a clear circle at eye level. In the glass was not my reflection, but the black-dressed woman's. Empty sockets where my eyes should have been. And then from next door came Tasha's muffled crying. I pressed my ear to the wall, but the voice that answered her wasn't human. Dozens of voices layered together, whispering in unison. Bring him to us. Bring him down the spiral. The crying stopped. A silence thick as dirt followed. She was gone by sunrise. Her RV abandoned in the lot, all windows open, every inch inside dust-choked. Her cigarettes, her bag, everything left behind like she stepped out only for a second. Except for one thing on the driver's seat. A note, written in shakier handwriting than the first message I'd ever seen. I'm sorry, Danny. They promised me she'd come back if I brought you instead. I stood there in the red dawn, note fluttering, fighting the urge to collapse. Tasha wasn't my safety. She was my executioner. The hollow had both of us in its grip, twisting grief against grief until one betrayed the other. And now I was alone again on the spiral road. After Tasha vanished, the desert seemed to swallow even the sound of my engine. I drove for hours, but the horizon never shifted, the road unspooling like an endless tape loop. Every sign read 191. Every green highway marker pointed to towns that didn't exist. The silence grew so oppressive that I turned the radio dial, hunting for voices, music, static, anything. But the only thing that came through across every frequency was faint breathing. Not mine, a woman's. And slowly, like someone leaning close to the speaker, a voice threaded into the noise. You left her, Daniel, but you won't leave me. I slammed the dial off, knuckles white. The passenger seat creaked softly as though something had just shifted there. I refused to look, couldn't. But peripheral vision betrays us all. Out of the corner of my eye, folds of dark fabric swayed against the seat. The smell of old flowers filled the car again, cloying and cursed. I drove faster, headlights stretching against nothing. But with every mile marker, her presence grew heavier, pressing closer. By the time dusk fell, I felt breath on my neck. Finally, I shouted, "What do you want from me?" Her mouth no longer had stitches. I know, because I met her reflection in the rear view. To drive. A green sign passed my headlights. Welcome to Monticello. My chest tightened. Impossible. I was hours south of Utah. But the streets were there. The same lifeless main strip, the same flickering yellow light looping back like I'd never left. I circled twice, 3 times, swallowing rage. Every road out dragged me back into Monticello like a magnet snapping shut.
On the fourth pass, storefronts weren't boarded, they were burning. Flames licked silently up wood, but no smoke, no sound. And in each firelit window, I saw shapes waving at me, eyeless, grinning, mouthing words I couldn't hear. The woman in my passenger seat pressed her hand against the glass and whispered, "Home." By midnight, I pulled into the gas station again, Henry's Fuel, hoping desperately for an anchor. And that's where I found her. Tasha. Or something like her. She stood at pump 4, face streaked in ash, eyes hollowed blacker than tar. When she turned toward me, her lips stretched too wide, but her voice wavered soft, broken. "They told me she'd come back, Danny. They lied." I staggered backwards. "Tasha?" She tilted her head like a puppet on strings. Not Tasha anymore, just a marker, just a signpost showing you the way down. Her body convulsed, jaw snapping downward too far until her mouth split ear to ear. From inside her throat came hundreds of voices, some I knew. My father, my ex, friends long drifted away, all calling, all inviting. "Drive, Daniel, down the spiral. Don't stop this time." The ground itself buckled under the gas station lot. Asphalt cracked wide, revealing not earth, but roadway spiraling downward like an open drain. The hollow peeled itself into the world. My Camry groaned, headlights blazing into the abyss. I should have run. I should have fought. Instead, I slid into the driver's seat as if hypnotized. The woman, stitched-mouth, eyeless queen, was already waiting in the passenger chair, hands folded neatly in her lap. Tasha, or the thing wearing her, stood at the edge of the spiral pit, smiling with her broken mouth. I turned the ignition. The car started instantly. The voice beside me whispered, "It's time you learned who's really steering." And we drove down into the dark. The spiral road yawned beneath me, each loop tighter, each curve darker until sky disappeared completely. The Camry's headlights only illuminated a few feet ahead, but even those beams seemed swallowed by the black silk of the hollow.
The air wasn't desert anymore. It was damp, heavy, tinged with rust, as though we were plunging underground through some endless wound. My ears rang like I'd crossed altitude too fast. The stitched-mouth woman sat perfectly still. Sometimes, out of the corner of my eye, I thought her hands twitched on the wheel as though she held the car from her seat. When I whispered, "Where are we?" her reply hissed like steam, "Where you were always driving." After what felt like hours of downward spiraling, the road leveled out into something that looked almost familiar. A small American town. Neon signs flickered, store windows dressed in mannequins. Bars, a diner with a spinning pie sign, a Greyhound terminal with dusty benches. But every building leaned wrong, proportions slightly warped, like sketches redrawn by shaky hands. And the streets were filled. Crowds of eyeless figures shuffled about, some carrying briefcases, some shoving shopping carts, others leaning in the doorways like they'd lived here their entire lives, a parody of community. My headlights swept across them, and every single head turned in unison. Tasha appeared at the roadside, waving me closer. Her eyes, no longer human, pulsed like lanterns, gray light spilling.
She beckoned with urgency. "Daniel, this way! You're close now." I braked hard, torn between rage and despair, because even hollowed out, her voice carried enough humanity to choke me with longing not to be alone. A bell tolled, not from any church tower, but from the very asphalt. At once, the townsfolk began forming lines, marching. Their choreographed shuffle echoed a memory I couldn't place, until I realized my nightmares. Each whisper I'd drowned out now had a body to it, moving here, uniform in their emptiness. They paraded past my car, lanterns swaying, and in every eyeless face I recognized someone I'd once known. A classmate, a coworker. My mother's face, hollow sockets dripping threads of black. She mouthed something as she passed the windshield, words without voice. I read them with absolute clarity. "You belong here, too." Looking upward, I expected ceiling, rock, tunnels, anything. Instead, the sky above this hollow town flickered like static on an old TV screen. Blue 1 second, snowed white the next. Through flashes, I saw fragments of other highways, as though the hollow existed beneath all roads in America, feeding like a parasite on the gaps between destinations. Cars drifted there, half-phased through the static firmament. Drivers with locked jaws, some screaming silent through their windows, others already eyeless, merged into the stream. Each road above eventually bent, curling downward, funneling into the spiral that had claimed me. No escape. Not really. The stitched-mouth woman finally turned. She didn't move like flesh, but like film running a frame too slow, skipping, jerking. Her lips parted, and the voice was both hers and mine. "You can't outrun yourself, Daniel." Her pale hand reached toward the steering wheel. I gripped tighter until my knuckles burned. "This is my drive, not yours." Her head tilted backward, unnaturally far. Then she screamed without sound, mouth stretched open, and instantly the car's dashlights flickered, engine growling as though possessed. The wheel twisted in my hands, dragging us toward the curb where rows of watchers waited, arms out, as though ready for embrace. I fought it, veins bulging, bones straining, every nerve screaming to hold on. For a moment, just a sliver of mercy, the car steadied. The hollow didn't like that. The spiral deepened ahead, and I knew choice was coming.
The dashboard radio suddenly screamed to life. Static shredded my ears, but under the noise came a song. Not music exactly, just the voices of my father, my mother, my ex, woven into discordant melody. "Danny boy, come home. We miss you. Don't leave again." I yanked the dial. It wouldn't turn. I punched it. It wouldn't crack. The voices grew louder until words jammed into my throat with suffocating guilt. Through the blur of windshield light, I saw the road ahead split into two spirals. One curled left, coiling deeper, a glowing vortex of lanterns held by legions of hollow travelers. Down there, faces I recognized beckoned like salvation. The other curled right, darker, emptier. No figures, no lanterns, just the shriek of nothingness awaiting. The steering wheel shuddered, fighting my hands to drag me left toward the light and crowd. Her voice seeped from the passenger seat again. "Choose the left, Daniel. Stay with us. You don't need to wonder hollow anymore. They'll give you peace. They'll fill the emptiness. Something inside cracked. Maybe rage. Maybe desperation to still feel alive. I snarled against her pull. I don't want it filled. I just want it to hurt like it's supposed to. Her eyeless sockets flared open wider, black liquid rolling down her cheeks. Then the dark it is. I twisted all my weight, wrenching the wheel right. The tires screamed, the Camry lurched into the darker spiral. Instantly, the lantern-lit crowd bellowed, not with sound, but as though every skull howled directly inside me. My eyes watered, chest caved, veins threatening to split, but through it all, I knew I wasn't theirs, not yet. The woman in the passenger seat shrieked without lungs, face shredding into stretched white ribbons, as if the choice split her apart. Her final hiss rattled my bones. You'll regret the empty road. Then, she was gone. Silence. For the first time in days, true silence, unbroken. The spiral stretched longer and longer, darker and darker, until even my headlights glowed useless. There were no watchers, no towns, no voices, nothing. Only the hum of my engine and my pulse hammering. Was it freedom? Or had I chosen exile worse than being part of the crowd? The odometer spun wildly, though the tires didn't seem to touch ground anymore. At the far end of nothing, a single light appeared. Not lantern light, not fire. The pale orange of dawn rising over a desert horizon. I pressed the gas, chasing it until my lungs burned with hope I couldn't believe in. The closer I drew, the stronger it became. Sand, sky, mesas reappeared. I felt the solid crunch of asphalt beneath wheels again. And then, just like that, I burst upward out of the spiral. Onto Highway 191. Midday, Arizona desert, blazing sun. No figures, no static sky, just heat rippling off the blacktop. I pulled over, climbed out, fell to my knees on hard dirt, choking dry tears. Birds cried overhead. Cars passed, real cars with real people. But when I staggered back to the Camry, I froze. On the passenger seat lay a wilted bouquet of black flowers, petals crumbling into ash, and written in the dust on my windshield was a spiral, ending in the word dusk. I drove without stopping. 2 hours, 3. Every passing car filled me with nervous relief. Each driver had eyes. Each child pressed against the window, restless but alive. The gas gauge moved normally. The radio caught stations again. Country, static, AM traffic. For the first time in what felt like years, the world seemed ordinary. But ordinary is fragile. At a diner outside Tucson, I sat with black coffee, trying to anchor myself back to something sane. The waitress smiled, tired, but kind. She poured my refill and teased. "Long drive, huh? Where you coming from?" I hesitated. My mind ricocheted too many names, too many loops. Finally, I muttered, "Monticello." For a flicker, just one flicker, her face went completely blank. Her eyes clouded over. And when she blinked, they were normal again. She smiled too wide. "Table's yours as long as you don't stop driving." The coffee cup slipped in my hands. Hot liquid burned my skin, but I barely felt it. When I walked back outside, the dust around my Camry was covered in footprints, dozens of them, bare, thin, pressed deep as though whoever made them weighed nothing and everything all at once.
On the driver's side door, someone had dragged a finger through the dust, writing one word: continue. Against reason, I kept driving east, through New Mexico into Texas. Familiar landscapes returned.
Billboards for diners, lit up truck stops, traffic thickening near cities. For the first time, I thought maybe, just maybe, I could go home. So I did. My apartment's parking lot in Denver hadn't changed. Same cracked pavement, same graffiti. My upstairs neighbor still argued with his dog. It was all normal enough for my chest to loosen for the first time in weeks. But when I opened my front door, my living room was wrong. The furniture was there, the photos, the same sagging couch, but my walls, every inch of them, were covered in spirals drawn in dust. And on my kitchen table sat the wilted black bouquet I'd left behind in the car. That night I clicked on the TV, desperate for distraction. Every channel flickered with static. Then one showed something different. The feed was of a highway, empty, headlights stretching down asphalt I knew too well. A shaky camera zoomed closer. The driver's face filled the screen. It was me. Mouth open, eyes dark hollows. I scrambled to shut it off, but the sound followed, voices pouring from the speakers, the same mantra whispered since Monticello. Next, next, next. It hit me then, sharp and merciless. I'd never left. The hollow wasn't a place, it was a contagion. Once you drove it, you carried it. The spiral followed you, reshaping every road, every diner, every town. Each drive just folded deeper into the maze. There was no getting out, no true sunrise, no distance from the pit, just layers of roads worn thinner and thinner until the hollow swallowed again. And I was the proof, not escaped, just at the next loop. The note on the windshield hadn't been a warning. It was a schedule. For days, I tried to keep my life stitched together, go to work, buy groceries, pretend Denver was real, but the cracks widened quickly. Downtown sidewalks crawled with eyeless shapes no one else seemed to notice. Green street signs all bore the same cursed number, 191. Even the skyline bent, the glass towers leaning toward some central point, as if Denver itself were being pulled into the spiral. At night, every window in my complex glowed with lantern light. My neighbors whispered in voices of the dead. I finally understood. The hollow wasn't chasing me. I was chasing it, dragging it with every mile I spun. I was its carrier. A stranger knocked on my door 3 nights into the spiral's spread. He looked as hollow as I felt. Thin, bloodshot eyes, hair matted from sleepless highways. "You drove it too," he rasped before I could ask. "Didn't you?" I nodded. His hands trembled as he lit a cigarette. "It doesn't stop with us. Every road we touch bends back down. We're seeds, germs, vectors." I asked the only question left in me. "Then how do we kill it?" He laughed, tears in his eyes. "You don't. Only option is to drive until there's nothing left of you." Then he walked away. By the time I reached the window, he was gone. Not down the street, just gone. By the end of that week, traffic reports on the radio made no sense. Broadcasters calmly listed highways that no longer existed, commuters vanishing mid-route. Emergency alerts popped up on phones, though the words were always the same single command: keep driving. Downtown Denver shrank until it was just looping streets spiraling inward, intersections folding back on themselves like Mobius strips. Everywhere I went, people started driving in circles. Families packed into minivans and spun round and round, hollow-eyed, chasing an exit that didn't exist. And I knew it was my fault. My hands on the wheel had carried this hunger into the world. I packed a final bag, cooler, water, flashlight, same as the first night long ago before Monticello. The Camry waited, engine rumbling as if eager. On the passenger seat lay the black bloom bouquet again, somehow fresh this time, petals slick with dew. Beside it, car keys I hadn't placed there. The voice filled the car again, softer than before, almost gentle. You open the road, now close it. Drive until the spiral ends. I looked into the rear view. My reflection stared back. Not hollow yet, but close. Eyes ringed in black dust, smile cracking against my will. This wasn't escape anymore. It was containment. A final drive, one I wouldn't return from. So here I am now, steering into the horizon. City behind me collapsing into lights and loops, the rest of America ahead like dry tinder waiting for a spark. The road stretches forever. Every mile marker is 191, and the spiral is widening, swallowing everything.
The Camry has become more coffin than car, but I keep driving, odometer spinning numbers that don't exist, gas needle never empty, asphalt unrolling like ribbon drawn from under the earth. The stitched-mouth woman sits with me again. She doesn't fight now. She only watches, hands calm in her lap, as though she knows this is what the road wanted all along. Every road ends, Daniel, she whispers, voice soft as sand. But some drivers don't. As I drive, the blacktop shows me visions, cities folding inward, highways twisting like snakes, millions of cars sucked into spirals, families, truckers, lovers, every face warps into eyeless submission. They wave at me as if thanking me. The parasite has spread, and deep down I know why. It spread because I lived, because I drove out. But I understand now. The hollow isn't endless. It only pretends to be. It needs drivers to keep it alive, needs us to keep turning the wheel. So I tighten my grip, my knuckles crack, and I do the one thing the hollow can't stand. I stop. The tires shriek, the car shakes violently, as though the whole spiral resists the idea of stillness. The woman beside me howls, face unraveling into ribbons of black smoke. She shrieks, "If you stop, there will be nothing left of you." I meet the hollow where her eyes should be. That's the point. The spiral around me fractures. Asphalt crumbles into dust. Figures dissolve. Lanterns sputter out. Towns collapse like cardboard cutouts struck by fire. The last thing I see is the sky above, static, tearing to blue, blue to white, white to nothing. And then silence, not the suffocating silence of hollow, but the true silence of ending. They'll tell stories maybe, some driver who vanished on Highway 191, car found rusting in desert heat, journal full of spirals in the glove box, a mystery chalked up to dehydration, madness, myth. But if the sacrifice held, the hollow died with me. If it cracked, then every mile you drive, even now, is feeding it again. Check the signs, listen to the wheels. If the road starts to pull, you will know. And if you see a crooked sign that reads "Hollow Road," 12 turn back, because I won't be there to hold the spiral down anymore. Friends, you enjoy listening to stories but you don't subscribe to the channel or like the videos? I request you to please subscribe to the channel right now so that I get more motivation to bring you even more stories. If you help me reach 1,000 subscribers, I promise to bring you extremely scary stories with a truly real feel. 2 horror stories every single day. So go ahead, like the video, subscribe to the channel.